Our curtain jerker. The conversation we want to talk about is AEW All Out. We're not going to recap the pay-per-view that was. We will talk about some of the matches here, but if you want to know the match card, the match results, we're what, 4 or 5 days after that pay-per-view happened. We're not going
Yeah,
to recap the
we're
show, but
late.
instead we want to talk about a bigger picture conversation here because, Bob, after that show, you texted me something, and I guess if you want me to paraphrase what you said, I will, or you can put it into your own words, but it basically centered around you watched the ECW days and the world of just blood all over the place wrestling, where the violence is too real and the wrestling is supposed to be fake. Like, we know it's real for these
Yeah.
wrestlers, but when we get stuff in there like power bombs on the cinder blocks, hypodermic needles into mouths, guys getting a bag thrown over their head and choked out, sometimes it's still real to me. Damn, it kind of bleeds through the line a little bit, and you're not the biggest fan of that. Do you want to explain what your message was and how All Out made you feel?
Well, my biggest takeaway from All Out was I thought it was actually a good show overall. Just getting that out of the way. But my biggest takeaway was, where the hell do you go from here? And I don't mean from storyline. It's just, we're desensitizing the entire audience to everything. So like when someone just falls on tacks, that's like a body slam in AEW now. If they keep going down this road, like that's what I'm worried about. That was my main concern. But that whole show, the Willow Nightingale versus Statlander, that whole show was like an insane deathmatch type atmosphere. It was great, but if that's like, they can't do that all year. That's what was my main thing. Like, please just don't do these unsanctioned matches more than once a year. Have that be one time crazy thing. But I was left with like, my God, like they're just way too ridiculous, way too many risks, way too many huge spots that you move on from in 10 seconds. We don't get to like enjoy and go, holy shit, and look at the destruction. They're already on to another spot. That's what like annoys me about AEW. It's like, slow the hell down. Stop doing all these risks. I sound like an old, like 80-year-old
You do.
grandfather.
You got a little
Here.
Jim Cornette vibe going with you
Yeah.
right now. But I do have to say, the Willow Nightingale Chris Statlander match to me is separate from the other two because I thought that match was the best match of the night, and I was looking forward to it, and I thought it paid off everything. I thought it was fantastic, and it was like the Chicago street fight, whatever the stipulation was. So you knew crazy stuff was going to happen, especially the way they came out in their street fight gear. I thought they both looked great. They looked the part, and I thought it was a really fun match. And I thought the big spots that they did have an impact. The fluorescent lights over the head. You see Statlander's now dazed and bleeding. They're going through the table, the spear through the table, and then when we get back into the ring, the tack spot where Chris Statlander, the poor girl, does a split on the tacks. We get a couple of body bumps onto the tacks. I understand moving too fast, and I understand how getting hit in the mush with a chain and then getting back up and hitting her with a chain. Like I get that sometimes we're not selling as much as we should be, but I thought that match did a really nice job of taking everything they had to take and moving the story forward. The next two matches, or the next two moments, I should say, were a little bit interesting to me. Daniel Bryan getting choked out with a plastic bag over his head. I never want to see that again. I understand we're trying to make Moxley as dangerous as possible, but as you said, what's next after that? Like, what's Moxley actually going to do to Darby Allin when he faces him at Grand Slam? Is he going to kill the man? Because he almost killed Daniel Bryan on television. And I thought it was jarring, and that's a good thing for a heel, but at the same time, I don't need to see that again. What else I don't need to see is that cinder block in the unsanctioned street fight with Swerve and Hangman. There were a lot of crazy spots. I love the staple gun. I think the staple gun stuff is awesome. And again, dangerous, bloody, probably need a couple of shots, tetanus shots afterwards, but I think they're awesome moments with the staple gun. The hypodermic needle spot didn't affect me as much as it affected others because you could tell Swerve was really in control of what was going on there. Even though I never need to see it again, it wasn't exactly the one that got me because I trust these two guys know what they're doing. The cinder block stuff to both Hangman and Swerve, that made me never want to see wrestling again because that's not fake. It's real glass, bro. Like, that's something that you cannot be safe around, and you can seriously hurt yourself, and it is not needed. Like, he's used the cinder block before, Swerve has, and I understand it's part of his character. Get a fake one. Get one that crumbles into dust when you hit it. That's okay. We're watching wrestling. We can watch a fake cinder block and believe that it was real. Oh my God, he's so strong. He crushed it with the weight of another man's body. It doesn't need to be a real cinder block. That was the only one that stuck out to me, Bob. Was there any specific spot that stuck out to you that made you say, I don't want to ever see this again?
Well, you already said it. It was the bag spot with Bryan Danielson and John Moxley. I really hated that spot. It was like, let me be clear. I did like the show. I'm all for like extreme wrestling here and there. It was just like a culminate, like the entire show. I was like, holy shit. They're just
Yeah.
there's no filter here, which is great, I guess. But there's a limitation to like the masses. The mass audiences don't want to see a needle shoved through somebody's face. That's just my opinion. But the Danielson thing was like, you can do a heel turn any way you want, man, but we don't have to have a man suffocating like a fish out of water in the middle of the. It was unbelievable. This is Bryan Danielson's last run of his career, and he's wobbling around in the ring with a plastic bag over his head. After he won a great match with Jack Perry, I thought he brought Jack Perry to one of the best matches of his career, if not the best. Like, I really enjoyed it. It was like a 4 Meltzers. If we were doing a review, I would give it a 4.5 Meltzers. But yeah, just the bag spot. It just I'm not watching Romper Stomper. I'm not going back and watching a 30-year-old
not
Russell
American
Crowe
History
movie.
X.
Yeah, I don't need to. But if that's in the movie, like let's cut it out. You can be a crazy heel. You don't need to have I don't want to see attempted murders. It turned me off.
Yeah. I will say the way they performed that turn, I thought was expert level. We all kind of knew the John Moxley thing was this new character was going to be something a little bit deranged and dirty. And when that happened, you see the replay of Pac hugging Wheeler Yuta and then goes from hugging to restraining him because he's in on it and Yuta is not. Cesaro pulls off a great uppercut from raising the guy's arm into an uppercut, and Daniel Bryan gives him the greatest shock face whatsoever, and then the bag over the head, which we could have just choked him out. Like Moxley's a wrestling specialist, a submission specialist. We could have just choked him out. We didn't need to put a bag over his head.
He has a thing called a bulldog choke that he uses regularly. I wouldn't mind seeing that there instead of a plastic bag. Just that visual of him like gasping for air. It's like, all right, man. Like,
yeah,
a little much, but I understand like the sentiment. Like, they want to be different. They can do whatever. I respect it. I respected ECW. I just never like that. I never was a weekly watcher of ECW. I just watched it from afar and said, "Wow, that's crazy." It never got my attention.
Do you think this is just a one-off thing? Not a one-off thing, but a once-in-a-while thing with AEW? Do you think they're going to start leaning into more extreme wrestling? Because ECW really stuck out from WWE in that way. That's how they made their mark. That's how they found their own group, and that's how they succeeded for as profitable as they were for the short time they were profitable. Do you think AEW sees that as their avenue here? Because they no longer have the Vince McMahon avenue. They are fighting against Triple H, who is much better at booking. We have our qualms of Triple H, don't get me wrong, but he's much better than Vince at this whole thing at this point in both of their careers. So AEW now isn't the sexier brand anymore. Do you think they're trying to find a new niche to try and find eyeballs?
Maybe. I don't think it will work. I don't think that's the way to go, but that's just an opinion. It could be. I could be wrong. There could be millions of people ready to just really just want to see people suffocated with bags. There could be millions of people out there. I don't think there's no, but I think they should focus on their athleticism more than the extreme. Like they have some of the best wrestlers in the world, and you go to extreme, we're already way too injured. If you look at their roster, I don't want to invite more of it. I would just.
And everybody has tape. That's the other thing I noticed in an AEW match. Everybody has tape somewhere on their body.
That's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. They're all like the Walking Dead in there. It's just they wrestle once a week. They don't.